Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic, we're going to tell a little story. So this is in regards to nutrition, and it is when I used to drink a gallon of milk a day. So yes, I drank a gallon of milk a day, and I did it for 2 years. So that is pretty crazy, and it is an accomplishment I've leaned on in later days to kind of have confidence in myself, learn that I recognize I did have discipline. So if I could drink a gallon of milk a day for 2 years in a row, damn, I could do anything if I wanted. So it was something that gave me confidence over time. And I've thought back through that many times as just kind of reminding myself that I can be strong when I want to be strong. So if you ever kind of face a new challenge and not sure if you can do it, think back to things you've conquered in your past. You know, things that you've done, you've had discipline for, and recognize you can bring out that discipline again, and you can even improve upon that discipline. So if you've done it before, that means you can do it again. You can probably do it a little bit better. Okay, so why in the hell did I drink a gallon of milk a day? This was back whenever I was getting ready to go into college. So I had started lifting weights when I was 16, and I started exercising, kind of like starting my health and fitness journey at 15 years old on my birthday. So a friend had kind of called me chubby and fat, and I didn't like the fact that he was right. So I didn't like the fact that he could call me something that would be true, but I didn't want it to be true. I didn't like that it was true. So it wasn't his fault for calling me fat. It was my fault for being fat. It was my fault for being something I wouldn't want to be. Okay? So it's not somebody else's fault to point out your faults. It's your fault if you have a fault. Now, everybody has faults. We're not perfect. But if I didn't like being overweight, it would be stupid for me to expect that no one else ever noticed it. It was more so control for me was to say, okay, if I don't like being overweight, let me do something about it and not be overweight, rather than avoid having people tell me I'm overweight. So rather than avoid having people tell me the truth, I'd rather make the truth be something I wanted. Okay, so at 15, I decided to do push-ups and sit-ups every night, and I set a goal of 250 push-ups and 250 sit-ups every night. And from 15 to 16, I only missed 10 days that whole year. And that was actually pretty damn miserable because I was going from a weak, chubby kid who could probably do maybe 10 push ups at a time. And I somehow found a way to do 250 of those damn things every day. So for that whole year, except for 10 days, 7 of which was on a Boy Scout trip. And I was kind of too embarrassed to do it in front of my friends. Oh, excuse me. So I was too embarrassed to do it for my friends, so I kind of missed a week there, and then haphazardly kind of missed 3 other days. But that was pretty good, I thought. So that kind of got me disciplined. It taught me what I could really do. So then at 16 years old, my parents bought me a weight set. So I used that set and kind of started lifting weights every day for a long time. So I lifted weights from 16 to 18, essentially. And my goal was I thought I'd look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Turned out it didn't work. So I ate nothing and exercised like way too often and all the time. So I'd like work out, like I'd go to school, I'd have a sport practice after school, I'd eat dinner with my parents, then go lift 2 or 3 hours a night, like in the basement. So, and I did that all the time. So it was something that again taught me discipline, but I was eating nothing. I was only eating one meal a day. So I would have been classified as anorexic in the sense that I was eating one meal a day, paying attention to the calories I had of that meal, and then would try to burn off those amount of calories at night. So it was very unhealthy. So I lost a lot of weight in terms of fat and muscle because I was undernourished and just overexercised. So I remember during that whole time I gained a couple inches in height. I believe I gained 4 inches in height, but actually didn't gain any weight. So I got 4 inches taller, but ended up staying the same weight, which meant I lost a lot of kind of fat and muscle in that process. So they have standards in like equations and stuff. And for example, about 1 inch in height represents about 8 pounds of mass. So, and there's a ton of variance to that. So, but it is significant to get 4 inches taller and not be any heavier. So I kind of just did it wrong for 2 years, but I didn't know it at the time. So I remember getting ready to go to college. I kind of graduated high school, and I was thinking to myself, is I just trained, dang, I just trained 2 years of my life and didn't really look any better. So I remember saying to myself was, well, damn, if I can't look pretty, okay, like having nice cut, lean muscles, then I'm going to be a freaking beast. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to gain weight. And at the same time, I found an article by Lee Priest, who is a bodybuilder from Australia. And he was talking about how he ate a whole chicken, a whole loaf of bread, and a whole gallon of milk as like one of his meals per day. And I was like, well, damn, this dude looks huge. He looks all cut up. I want to look like that. I don't know if I can get a whole chicken and a whole loaf of bread every day, but I can damn sure get the milk in. So I started drinking a gallon of milk a day, and I drank skim milk because I thought it would be unhealthy to get the fat calories from the milk. So I was an absolute moron because there was more sugar than there was anything else in milk. So it was absolutely stupid to skip the fat. So now when I drink milk, I drink whole milk because I might as well get the fat and get the, health benefits that the fat has to offer. So, but that was basically what I did. So I did it for 2 years, drank a gallon of milk every damn day, and it was very expensive for my parents. So thank you, parents. And then when I got to college, I remember it was kind of rough, but there was a 7-Eleven right by the dorm that I stayed at. So I would go down to the 7-Eleven and buy milk like every day. So I ended up getting to know the workers pretty well. So but that was in the city of Pittsburgh. But yeah, so I did it every day. So what were the pros and cons? So would I recommend that you try to drink a gallon of milk a day to gain weight? The answer is hell no. So the pros was I did gain weight. So over those 2 years, I gained 30 pounds. I went from 165 to 195, which worked in the sense of giving me more overall mass. So I got more size to me. So I didn't appear as skinny. And I remember people telling me, like, when I would come back from, college and see, like, friends and stuff on, like, holiday weekends and whatnot. And they would often say, like, oh, man, it looks like you're getting bigger. So I was getting, like, a good feedback in that sense. And I also gained an immense amount of discipline. So I promise you that drinking a gallon of milk a day is not a fun thing to do on every day. So on days when I didn't feel good, I still drink a gallon of milk. On days I was traveling and going on vacations, I still had to drink a gallon of milk. So it was always, always, always just on the top of your mind that that was the thing you had to get done that day. So there was many, many, many nights where I was staying there, right before bed and have to like make up half of the gallon of milk and just being miserable trying to chug that in. And I remember also at that time there was this challenge going around that's saying you couldn't drink a gallon of milk in an hour. And they were saying it was like physically impossible. And I was like, horse shit, I do that every day. So I probably could have aced that challenge at that time. But so that's what it did. It was the good stuff was I did gain weight. And I did gain very good discipline. Now the cons or the negatives of it was, I apologize. I shouldn't be doing a podcast when I'm tired. But the cons was that I gained a significant amount of fat. So out of those 30 pounds, I mean, damn, it felt like maybe 5 of it was muscle. So, looking back at it now, at the time I was ecstatic. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I gained 30 pounds. I was looking bigger, filling out my shirts. Looking back at it now, oh, it was awful. So I had like, man boobs, I had pudgy belly. Definitely was filling out shirts, but I would never have wanted to take the shirt off, that's for sure. So, I had gained size, but it wasn't very good quality size. And I do remember distinctly having to take the next few years to undo what that diet did to me. So by gaining that much fat, gaining it through sugary source, and it took a long time to kind of chop that fat back off and get leaner, like a more hard, lean look. So that took years, like 3-4 years to correct the 2 years of drinking milk. So it was a good like 6-year lesson basically. So that was the negative to it. It was weight gained, but it was weight gained entirely incorrectly. So I see this all the time when people trying to lose weight. They'll lose like 30 pounds in 30 days or some stupid bullshit like that. And they're super happy because the scale goes down and they get to be in smaller clothes. But they don't look good when they get down there. So they don't look like they're ready to put on a bikini and show off any kind of muscle tissue. They typically just look like the same damn version of their own body, their old body, but it's just smaller. So if they look like a pear, they're just going to look like a smaller pear. They're not going to change their shape. So they lose the 30 pounds. In the process, they do it through behaviors and mechanisms that are not sustainable for the rest of their life. So once the 30 pounds is lost, they go back to old habits because they haven't learned new healthy habits. So they go back to the same stupid ass habits that got them fat and overweight. And then all of a sudden the weight starts coming back. And typically, in the process of that 30-pound loss or that extremely fast weight loss, they would have hurt their metabolism because they probably did it through no food and a ton of cardio. And we've talked about that in the past, that actually slows down your body's ability to burn fat. And it makes it harder for you to burn fat in the future. So then when they go back to their old habits, and with a body now that's all beat up and damaged, they're usually going to gain those 30 pounds back or even more. So that's what I found for me, but it was in the opposite. I gained weight too fast and in a shitty manner, and then it took me a long time to correct that. So just like for men and women who lose weight too fast, I have to go through a process of correcting their metabolism, which can often take 2, 3, 4 times as long as what it took them to mess up their metabolism. That's what happened to me. So I gained a bunch of weight, but it was all fatty nastiness, and I had to take that all back off. But by then, my body was really good at storing calories because that's what I taught it to do. So I kind of had to undo a lot of that. So, given that same scenario, what would I do different? And which means, kind of in a sense, is also what can you learn from my mistake? So, the first thing I would do would be to not pick a food source that had that much freaking sugar in it. So, at the time, milk was touted as a protein source. And that's what everybody would have, that's what, the milk commercial said was good source of protein and calcium. That's what all the articles and stuff I read said, hey, it's a good source of protein. But if you look at the freaking label of milk, there's 13 grams of sugar to 8 grams of protein. So there is almost twice as much sugar as there is protein. So I was drinking a sugar item to get protein. I should have been eating a protein item itself. So something that didn't have the sugars, didn't have like unnecessary carbs and fats. It would have just been better to get a real protein source. So I'd have been better off eating a pound of meat every day than I would have been to drink a gallon of milk. So that was a big thing I did wrong, was I picked the wrong type of food. So your lesson learned is to read labels. So just because somebody tells you something is a good source of protein, it doesn't mean that it's the highest amount of protein compared to other things. So I know like Special K cereal, like they did a thing lately where it's like, like good source of protein, and there's like 5 or 6 grams of protein, but there's like 30 grams of carbs. Okay, so it is not a good source of protein. It is a carb food. So it is really important to read your labels and make sure that what you think you're getting from that food is the highest provided nutrient. So if you're eating something for healthy fats, make sure it doesn't have more carbs in it than it has fats. If you're eating something like we said for healthy protein, make sure protein is the highest kind of nutrient provided. So I remember clients in the past, like I had one client, they were not supposed to eat a sugary item for snack, and it was due to a diet and structure and stuff. And I remember they were eating applesauce. And I asked them, I said, hey, what the hell are you doing? Like, apples are sugar, so applesauce is going to be sugar. And they said, no, it has no sugar in it. And I said, you can't freaking make applesauce without having their sugar in there. What the hell are you talking about? And here they sent me a picture of the label. And the label said no sugar added. So then I had to explain to them that no sugar added means they just didn't add sugar to the sugar that was already in it. So I said, please read the label. And then I got a text back that said, oh my God. And they're like, I didn't know this had sugar in it. And I'm like, no shit, it has sugar in it. So all they had to do was sit there and read the label, but they never did it. So now, here's a funny story to it, is their excuse was that they were in their late 40s, early 50s, and they didn't have their glasses with them when they were shopping. To which my answer would have been like, oh, for the love of God, like, You could have at least checked it when you got home. Why would you buy something without even just looking up on your phone? Like, there's a million things you could have done, even though you didn't have your glasses. So that's a pretty lame-ass excuse. So it is true that if you don't have glasses, you can't read the label. But it doesn't mean that's the only damn option you have to not read a label and just take a big fat guess. So, but I do remember that being very funny. The person truly thought applesauce had no sugar in it. So, another really good one that threw me for a loop was I had somebody one time arguing. I told them they couldn't have soda in their diet if they wanted to lose weight. Okay. And they're like, okay, well, I can't have Pepsi and Coke. That's fine. I'll just have, Sprite or 7-Up. To which there was an awkward pause on my part. And I'm like, no, you can't have those either. And they said, what do you mean? You said I couldn't have soda with sugar, right? And I was like, yeah. And they said, well, that's fine. I'll just have Sprite or 7-Up. And I'm like, you mean diet Sprite or diet 7-Up? And they said, no, like the regular stuff. And I'm like, okay, I am missing something in this conversation. Apparently there are words that I'm not hearing. So we continued to talk, and here it turned out that they thought soda that was clear, soda you could see through, didn't contain sugar. So they thought Pepsi and Coca-Cola and like Dr. Pepper and things that you can't see through had sugar, but they thought the clear sodas didn't have sugar, which I thought was hysterical. I had never thought to kind of like divide soda based on whether you could see through it or not. So that was new to me, new perspective. And again, it got to the point where I just said, well, read the label. And they said, what do you mean? There's no sugar in this. I said, look it up. So we looked it up on Google, and they're like, holy shit, it has sugar. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. So yes. So the lesson on this is to make sure you read labels. So I was an idiot, and I was drinking milk for protein, and there was twice as much sugar as there was protein. So make sure whatever you're eating, make sure you read the labels and actually know for fact what is in your food. So there's a website, nutritiondata.com. Okay, so nutritiondata.com, and you can search any food item you want. Hell, you can do it in Google. Just type, sweet potato nutrition facts, okay, or asparagus nutrition facts. And you can find like the nutrition facts for the food. But please, please, please find out what is in your foods, okay? Make sure you're eating the right thing for your goal. Make sure it doesn't have calories from other sources or other nutrients that other than what you intended, okay? The other lesson that I learned was that meal timing was extremely important. So intaking the calories when you needed them the most. So since my goal was to drink a gallon of milk a day, I was kind of drinking the milk arbitrarily throughout the day whenever I felt like it. So I wasn't making sure that I drank the calories at the most opportune times that they would translate over to to muscle tissue. So the best time to consume calories that you want to convert to muscle tissue is right after the workout. So after the workout, your body is beat up and damaged. So for a period of time following the workout, it will soak in calories best and put it to the efforts of building tissue, okay, muscle tissue. Now, how much time after the workout depends on the style of the workout and the intensity of the workout. So if somebody does cardio, there's pretty much zero muscle building effect of cardio. None. You're actually just tearing your body apart doing cardio. If you're doing resistance training, so you're lifting weights, and you lift weights and it's an okay session, but you're not a very strong person, you're kind of doing more like sets of 20 of everything, you're doing circuits, and you're doing it more for like a cardio effect of lifting weights rather than big, strong, heavy movements, then the window after that workout will be shorter. You could argue it could be anywhere from 1 to 4 hours, and this is enormously variant depending on the person. So let's just go with the idea of what I'm saying here rather than the specific numbers. So let's say you lifted weights, but they were light weights and they were done more for circuits and cardio effect. You might have 2 hours after the workout that your body is really good at going to soak in the food and really turn it to muscle tissue. Compared to somebody who does like a bodybuilding workout for 1 hour, they lift really heavy shit and they beat the crap out of their muscles and they go to absolute failure on their exercises, and it's kind of the most aggressive training you can do with weights. That might take 12 hours to fully repair from, in the sense that your body will be hungry and soaking in food to try to create muscle tissue and repair tissue for 12 hours. So one style of training might only have 2 hours, one style of training might have 12 hours. So the sensitivity of your body post-workout to convert calories to muscle tissue depends on the intensity of the workout. The more intense you have, the more you can eat after a workout and have it convert more likely to muscle. The less intense means that you have to be more careful because your body will convert things over to fat much faster because the desire to build muscle is much lower. So, in podcast 249, titled Meal Timing, you can learn more about that. So, that would be your lesson learned. So, what can you learn from my mistake? My mistake was I just ate an increase of calories all day throughout the day. And that was not the best way to do it. It converted more to body fat than it should have to muscle tissue. How do I get the most amount of muscle tissue for the calories I eat? I listen to podcast 249 and I pay attention to meal timing. Cool. Okay. Last one we have, last tip for you guys, was my diet. Gaining the 30 pounds was just kind of one sweeping effort that stayed forever and ever and ever. So it was just kind of like, I'm going to do this for 2 years and make no changes whatsoever. And the body absolutely stagnates to a consistent stimulus. So I use this analogy all the time, but it's a perfect analogy, is if I go out and I run a mile today, it will feel awful because I'm fat and out of shape. So I will have a heart attack and die and probably have to walk before I actually make a mile. If I do that every day, and then all of a sudden by the 100th time I'm running a mile, it'll feel easier. My body will have adapted to it. It'll have gained whatever ability it needed to make that workload be easier, okay? So it got adapted to running a mile, and then eventually a mile doesn't feel that hard. So if I set a diet and I eat a lot of calories to try to gain weight, I will gain a lot of weight initially. As my body adjusts to that, I will gain less and less and less and less and less. So over time, if I don't change my stimulus, my body responds slower and lower amounts, okay, lower significant, to the stimulus. The same is true of fat loss. So if I go on a diet, I usually get an initial big drop. Everything's going good for a little bit, and then it kind of stalls out, and then you don't really notice progress. And the reason why, again, is because since the stimulus was the same, the body adjusted to the stimulus, and it no longer gets a significant response. Just like if I go out and run a mile every day, it becomes ho-hum and boring, and oh, that again, kind of a sensation. So the lesson that we learn from this, and what I would do differently given the chance again, and this is all the lessons I apply to the clients I work with now that have the same goal, is to periodically change the stimulus. Okay? Is if I want somebody to gain weight, but I want them to gain weight having it be mostly muscle and least amount of fat, we have to have a controlled caloric surplus, making sure they eat enough calories that it's an extra. Okay? And what we would do is we would typically break it down into sections. So I might have them try to gain weight at a rate of a pound, at most 2 pounds a week, but I typically don't like recommending that because it's still more fat than it is muscle. So we would try to gain a pound to a pound and a half a week. And they might do that for 8 weeks. Then they're going to take 4 weeks and actually just try to hold their new weight. So let's say in 8 weeks they gained 10 pounds. We're then going to take 4 weeks to gain nothing. We don't want to lose anything. We don't want to gain anything. We just want to stand still. That's kind of a holding phase. What that does is it lets your body kind of solidify at that new weight. If I kind of like throw 10 pounds in my body, and then all of a sudden I stop doing my efforts, it'll come right back off. But if I throw 10 pounds in my body, I then kind of stop trying to gain anything, and I kind of hold that weight for a month. We get a little bit tighter, we get a little bit harder, we lose a little bit of like water fluff, and the body just kind of looks better at the end of the 4 weeks at that same weight. So it's almost like you're letting your composition, the quality of what you look like, catch up to the new weight. So they will do 8 weeks of gaining weight, 4 weeks of holding weight, then we repeat that. until they reach the goal that they wanted. Now, every 8 weeks, they're not going to gain the exact same amount because, again, the body gets very used to what's going on. So maybe the first 8 weeks they gain 10 pounds. Maybe the second 8 weeks they only gain 6. Maybe the third 8 weeks they only gain 4. But that's still over the course of 3, 6, 9 months, they would have gained 20 solid pounds that look pretty good on them. Okay? So if you extrapolate that to a year, they maybe can gain 24, let's just say 25 pounds in a year of very good quality weight. That's a very successful year. You do that another year, and all of a sudden you've gained 50 freaking pounds to your body size. That is incredibly significant. Okay? And the same is true of fat loss. If I want to lose fat, and I want to lose it in an efficient manner, where I don't lose a lot of muscle, and I make sure I look good when I actually lose the weight, to where I would have muscle I could see, I would have muscular definition, I'd want to put on like a bikini or a swimsuit, or go out on the beach, I'd want to actually have people see me, not naked, but you'd want to show off the body, okay? To where you lost weight and you feel happy with the way you look. Not that you lost weight, but there's still soft areas, there's still pudginess, there's still things you don't like about it, okay? You want to lose the weight then in stages. So take 8 weeks to lose about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds per week. So maybe in the first 8 weeks, you lose 10 pounds. Then you take 4 weeks to just kind of hold that steady. Then you take another 8 weeks to lose another, say maybe 8 to 10 pounds. Take another 4 weeks to hold that steady. All of a sudden, in 6 months, you've lost 20 pounds and you look significantly better. So this is something people can do for like the New Year's, getting ready for summer. So January 1st, they can go 6 months till June 1st, lose 20 pounds and look very good. And that's a way you can actually lose it and look better off at the end, not lose the weight and still look the same, but just smaller. So like we said, instead of going from a big pear to a small pear, you can go from a pear where you're frumpy at the bottom to actually having a more streamlined look or more hourglass type shape. So a look that you would actually be happy with, okay? So I drank a gallon of milk a day for 2 years in order to try to gain weight. I did it every day for 2 years, great discipline, and I did gain weight. But a lot of it was fat, it wasn't really good quality, and it took me 3 years to fix that freaking crap. So 3 to 4 years. So it took me longer to correct the benefits than I got. So if you've been trying to gain weight and nothing's really been consistent, you're always up and down, on and off. If you've been trying to lose weight and nothing's consistent, you're always up and down, on and off. The lessons that we learned, okay, from my experience in this one, was to always read labels. Be aware of what is actually in your food. Don't guesstimate. Don't just go, oh, so-and-so said this is healthy, so I'm going to eat this. Know what the hell's in your food, okay? So we've gone through a ton of times and talked about the podcasts that would give you this information. I'm going to run through it right now, okay? And then online, we got a suggestion from a reader that they said I should kind of reference which podcasts I reference. So actually list them out, okay? So here's the list. Podcast 41, titled Diet Right, What Matters Most. That lets you know the overall importance of a diet, whether it's weight gain or weight loss. What matters most, where you should focus your effort. Podcast 41. Podcast 153 kind of tells you about how many calories you need per day. Podcast 33 tells you how much protein you should have per day. Podcast 249 discusses meal timing. We've talked about that already. And then we also have podcasts for individual protein, carbs, and fats, which are protein types is 216, carbs is 21, and fats is 29. Now, that's a lot of podcasts. So I do understand that right there's 1, 2, 3, maybe 3.5, 4 hours of podcast. So I know that you're not going to necessarily jump all on that because that's a lot of amount of time. But what I'm saying here from our lesson learned is to know what's in our food. Know definitively if the efforts we're putting in are actually going to get the result we want. So I thought I was drinking milk every day to get a great source of protein, and I wasn't. I was getting twice as much sugar as I was protein. So I spent 2 years doing the wrong thing because I didn't take 2 damn seconds to read a label and kind of collectively think to myself, what is the best option here? So don't waste any more of your life. You've probably already wasted 2 years, at least, by not knowing the facts. So for 4 hours, you could save yourself for the next 2 years. So 4 hours is a little